Amascut won't be releasing until around July, but I've already started prepping for this boss, and today I wanted to go ahead and show you how I have been prepping for said boss release. So what do we know about this boss so far? Well, it's going to be a 5-man boss. It's going to be really difficult on release with a challenge mode that we as the community have to go ahead and defeat before unlocking the normal and hard mode variants. Now, yes, I do want to partake in this challenge mode, but I am not going to be seriously competing for race to world first. I just want to have fun with a few of my friends on release and see if we can figure it out and possibly get a challenge mode kill. And that's probably going to be one of the bigger parts of this boss. Is it's a flat 5-man difficulty as far as I'm aware, and there's not going to be any scaling of any kind that I know of. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to be making friends on this game. Now, that's mostly a joke. I do have a few friends in this game, even though I am a 99% solo content enthusiast. I'm also sure a Discord will be popping up with some sort of team forming for this, just like every other boss has its own sort of. And I've been meaning to get into group bossing for a while as a kind of on the back burner, slowly get into it type deal. However, most of the group content in this game, it's either just bring a single friend along for a duo, and it's bosses that aren't exactly worthwhile to do in a duo, or it's a group encounter that has a solo scaling option, so I just end up going and doing the solo scaling in the first place. So I am intrigued that they chose just flat 5-man difficulty, and other than that, that's all I really know about this boss. I am going on the assumption that it's going to be brutally difficult, which I think will lead nicely into the gear in what I've been doing. Oh, not this tab. There we go. That's the gear tab. Now, nothing in my gear tab has really changed too much. I really didn't add anything other than the fact I did buy another first necromancer set. This one has slayer perks on it, and I wanted one with standard perks on it and with how much that boss gets farmed. Even though I pretty much despise necromancy's existence, I must recognize its strengths. And when we're talking about a day of release and figuring out a challenge mode version of this boss, not utilizing something like necromancy could potentially just wreck the entire team. So I got gear set up in the background with standard perks on it that actually makes sense, not just some weird combo that I randomly came up with. Now, the only thing I am missing from necromancy is a shard of Genesis on the weapons. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to pull the trigger on that one just yet. I might see if I can get lucky on a couple shards or something like that on Sanctum, which leads me into the second thing that I've just been working on, which is just flat GP. Straight up, having more GP on a boss release is always going to be better for you. You're not going to be worrying about death costs. You're not going to have to worry about buying random supplies at exorbitant rates because you're just going to have so much GP it won't matter. There is no such thing as having too much GP on a boss release, especially if you want to start buying some of the items on release, which I am looking into. I am very interested in the melee two-hander. It is a halberd range weapon. Essentially, it will be replacing the scythe, and there is a magic T95 armor set coming into game, and I'm very interested in that as well. And being that I make videos here on YouTube and y'all are going to want to be knowing about them, I'm going to try and get them as soon as possible. So I definitely need to work on this cash stack. This is a bit low for my taste, but luckily we're a couple months out from the boss, so I do have time to farm that up even more. Now, in the other tab, which is my supplies tab, I have been slowly stocking up on supplies here. I went ahead and made more adrenaline renewals than I honestly know what to do with. This is like a couple year supply minimum. I've also been stocking up on super Guthix brews and super Sarah flasks. I'm assuming in a challenge mode there's going to be a lot of damage taken, a lot of chip damage, as well as avoidable mechanics, so I'm assuming that super brews are probably going to be mandatory. I also went ahead and stocked up on some spiritual prayers. I don't really use these too much unless I'm doing Sanctum with melee, but in group content you are more likely to be using spiritual prayers because you only really need 1 calg, maybe 2 on a team, depending on if people are getting split up or not. Elder Overload salves, I went ahead and just made a bunch of them. I want to do another batch of overloads, so that way it's more in line with the adren stack, but this is more than enough overloads for anything that I'm going to be doing. I also went ahead and finally cashed in all of my red sandstone that I had been mining and turned it all into ogre flasks. Again, this is just completely overkill to have this many, but anything that I can stockpile, I'm going to do that. I am working on getting more primal armor spikes and primal abyssal armor spikes. As far as I'm aware, Karis is going to be working. This isn't 100% confirmed, and if you know me by now, I will try and use melee just about anywhere to see how well it can work, and I absolutely would bring melee in on a day of release like this. I very much like testing the wild card or the off the meta type things, so bringing melee to Amascut, absolutely, I'd love to test it. Other than that, I'm just slowly working on stockpiling my familiars. I am kind of low on Calg demon pouches. I don't use Blood Reaver for really anything, but maybe the healing will be nice, or Hellhounds will be nice as well. I think these are fine, but I'll definitely work on Calg and Calg scrolls, so that way I just don't have to think about it, as well as Ripper and Ripper scrolls. Runes, I always try and keep on a white stack at minimum and try and go above that usually. Water runes, they're definitely low right now, but I've been doing a lot of magic, so that kind of makes sense. But other than that, just general supplies, making sure I'm stocked up on a lot of things like Vuln bombs, different arrow types, powders of different types. I have a good stockpile of portents and other things like incense sticks and whatnot. I haven't really thought of any like off the walls items that might be useful and I could keep in like a separate tab. And other than just the standard, you know, stockpiling supplies and buying every single piece of gear that I can think of that I'm going to need, making sure my perks are up to snuff. There is something else that I have been doing to prep for Amascut, and that is keep myself in the learning mindset of PVM. Now, this sounds kind of big picture and grandiose, but essentially all I'm saying is going through and doing a bunch of different bosses with different combat styles to keep my skill sets that I already have fresh, and if there's anything I haven't learned, which honestly there's still quite a bit in this game that I don't know how to do properly. Like, I haven't learned any of the higher enrage Zammy strategies with range, or Zammy at any enrage with range. Magic and melee at most encounters I'm pretty squared away with. I'm pretty comfortable with those two styles. Range I'm definitely slacking on, and necromancy I'll just run some random bosses to refresh myself if I need to. But I've been changing things up a lot. I've been going back to Glacor, and I've been playing with some different setups here. If I open up my preset, I have this one here that is kind of my low enrage farming preset, and I'll keep doing this and push it as far as I can to try and work on mitigating damage under non-ideal conditions like running Sliske or Zerking investments. I'll really try and push this preset as far as I can and force myself to start using things like defensives like debilitate and reflect and rezzing on cooldown, or using divert to really pump adren and soul split flicking properly. Things like this to really keep me on my toes and keep myself fresh, and having a second preset with magic and range inside of it, so that way when this one is just quite literally not viable anymore, I have a backup to continue the streak. And also it allows me to use range more, which I definitely need to do. I also have been going back to Raksha and working on range speeds there. I've also been just trying any idea that I possibly could think of as far as testing literally any boss and combat style combo that I can think of, or just some oddball setup. I'm really trying to keep myself in that creative mindset of looking for new things, because I believe that's going to be important for farming a new boss, because we're going to have new mechanics, we're going to have new different attacks, we're going to have new phases, everything is going to be brand new. And so constantly trying different things, trying oddball setups and not just purely meta farming, which purely meta farming definitely has its place in a prep for a new boss, because you want those solid foundations of good rotations built into your muscle memory and down pat before you try the oddball stuff, and it'll definitely help out on actual execution once a meta and rotation is figured out. But going through and just running these interesting or weird setups that I come up with, like, I have been trying for the past probably 2 weeks to figure out a consistent fast no heal magic pool skip at Raksha, and I have tried everything under the sun that wouldn't just absolutely nuke the kills per hour, because at Dino specifically you can do this thing where you like build up a sun in FSOA spec and use like the last 10 seconds of it limit to get through phase 1, and then you late sun for phase 2 and 3 to get the good pool skip, but it hurts your kills per hour. Anyways, I digress. But as I just said earlier, I think things like this are important to try and go and figure out for a new boss release, as to keep you in a good, fresh mindset for when the new boss shows up. Anyways, I definitely went on a bit of a ramble in this video. If you enjoyed it, consider subscribing to the channel. We are almost at 4,000 subscribers, and I am going to call the video here. Thank you very much for watching. Your viewership is greatly appreciated. Have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon, nighttime, whatever it is, wherever you are, and I will see you next time for the next video. Peace.